Hello and welcome to my first YouTube live stream. Today we're going to be talking about the overall project, the state of play, and some key features to a game that we're creating called War's End. You'll have to bear with me a little bit because this is the first time I'm using Streamlabs, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So, as a lot of you already know, we're starting up a OnlyFans TV channel, and I'm going to be doing a lot of side-loading streaming on this particular platform. We're going to be covering how I am making a pixel art Metroidvania. The game is called War's End, and it's something of a love letter to every video game I've ever enjoyed. So there's going to be a lot of mechanics that everybody is familiar with, so I thought it'd be a great way to express how much I love gaming, how we're going to build and devise most of these mechanics from scratch, and most importantly, since this is going to be our first real face-to-face, not exactly an episode, we're not exactly covering anything of importance today, I'm just showing you around, I want you to know how things work and what it is that we're actually trying to accomplish here. There's a lot of key things that really matter when you're trying to discuss a project, especially something of this size. War's End is the biggest and most complicated thing I have ever tried to undertake in my life, and it's taken me quite some time to get it to the point that I can very cleanly try to express my ideals in a way that you're going to understand. And at the end of all of this, I'm kind of assuming it's going to take about a year. We should have a fully functional game. Now, I do want to stress, this is not a tutorial. I'm not teaching you how to make a game. I'm here to help. If you have any questions, I'm almost always online, always available. You can always ask anything that you want to. What I am showing you is how I am making my game, and the lessons that we're going to learn along the way, the things that you're going to inevitably come across when you're trying to make something of your own that there just really isn't a tutorial for. So you're gonna kind of find ways to piece things together, like when you're creating an inventory system. At some point, you're gonna need a way to control all of your inventory objects in some sort of a graphical user interface. So how, in a game engine, do you make a scrollable list and make sure that the scroll bar fits the theme of your pixel art game? There's not a lot of tutorials on stuff like that, but that is something that you're going to come across. There's a lot of things like that. So, as we continue to do this, I'm going to show you how I'm making my game. And as we continue, it is going to get really, really complicated if you don't know what I'm talking about. So, let's show you around a little bit. First of all, we're going to be doing almost all of our work in, don't hate me for this one, Godot? Godot? Not really sure. I think it's Godot, and I like to call it Godot because it reminds me of a certain blacksmith. But this is the overall layout and the menu system, or the user interface theme, and you can adjust all of this in the project settings. So none of these actually have to be here where I have them. You can put the scene over here, you can put the inspector window wherever you want to. It's completely up to you how you lay it out. And Godot has a fantastic set of features, most specifically in that it includes the source code. So it is free as in, oh, I hate that this is still the standard, but free as in Libre and free as in free pizza. In addition, you get the source code, so if you don't want to maintain your version of this game engine and you want to make sure it's completely locked down and a completely stable development environment for you, you can compile it from source. You can break all the update processes and you can just keep one standalone executable that you build all of your stuff in, and you never have to worry about an update breaking all of your nonsense. The other nice part about Godot is everything is a node. Everything. Literally everything. Here, my enemy character is a node, his health bar is a node, his collision shape is a node, the sprite and the animation sprite sheet is all a node. All of it, just nodes Nodes, 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 nodes. It's just nodes all the way down. Another key important thing that we're going to have to talk about a lot is the main character build. I named him Trevor. I didn't name him, but he's named Trevor. And you'll notice right away, Trevor is composed of a great deal of sprite sheets. If any of you are a little bit on the older spectrum, you'll remember, a long time ago, there used to be this company that everybody really, really enjoyed their products. What were they called? Blizzard, I believe. They made this cute little game, nice little dungeon crawler. It gained a little bit of notoriety, nothing too big. It was called Diablo. Diablo 2, specifically, had a very bizarre way that they went about creating the sprite sheets. I think, and you'd have to look this up or maybe talk to somebody that was in the inner workings of the game company. But I really think that their intention was to do a full game with 3D assets, but for some reason that didn't really pan out. So they made 3D models, and then they made most of the character model invisible and exported every movement set for every single item completely individually. So when your character would put on like shoulder pads, your in-game character would put on just those shoulder pads, but they didn't have to redo the entire character model, they just swapped out the shoulder pad part. So they ended up with a character that was made out of dozens and dozens and dozens of sprite sheets. And if you ever look in the game files, you look at it and it makes absolutely no sense what you're actually looking at. Meet Trevor. Built off very much the same system, except in a 2D world. It's hard to see, but Trevor's feet, his upper legs, his entire torso, upper arms left and right, hands left and right, and head have all been separated into individual sprite sheets. And they all work with a faux transparency. Basically, I just deleted the pixels that would have overlapped. And this allows me to go through and swap out each individual thing. I'm still working on the system that will make sure that I don't have any issues with this, but the idea is that if you're wearing a chest piece, gauntlets, and then you put on a tunic, this part should still show that you're wearing something different. So I've broken him down into a series of different things that allow me to control almost everything about his inventory. It was also very fantastic in its signal system. This is great. It's super easy. You can connect one signal from a player to the level, and then from there reconnect it to, I think these ones mostly go to my incredibly complex camera. So buttons on the camera can emit a signal, and they will be connected through the level itself back down to the player, who then receives the signal, which usually is interpreted as just a function call. Is there anything else that you're really going to need to know about this? Most of my code is broken down very simplistically. I use a basic state machine for all animations and character movements. This game will eventually be released under a game company called Nombies. So this will be our signature enemy, is the Nombi himself. And his code is very similar in a lot of ways to the way that Trevor himself is built. It's just when you make an enemy, you're essentially making a closed loop that doesn't require any input. Once you have a standard state machine and you give him a starting spot, and so long as there's some form of a trigger, he'll just continue doing his things. Now, I did make kind of a, I'm not going to call it a mistake, a little happy accident. The tuning on the Nombi right now, he's absolutely just, he's so hard to beat. And I'm not even done with him, so as a standard enemy before I even get most of the game going, to already be providing a significant challenge means this code is... it's not bulletproof, but most of it's mathematically close. We're going to address this at some point too. I'm not super proud of this. It's just a massive array that is manually weighted, but this is the base version of the Nambi enemy. What I mean by that is that this is not one that you're ever going to see in the game. This is the standard that will be sort of setting the scene for how enemies are designed throughout the rest of the series. So his code is going to be featured in pretty much every enemy design, but he really is only wearing a loincloth, and he doesn't have a weapon. His arm has been broken, and there's like exposed bone that he's using as a weapon to slash back and forth. This is the most simplistic version that will exist. The first one that you encounter in the game will at least be dressed, if not be complete, but there'll be versions that have full arms, weapons, helmets, and eventually there'll be I'm making two primaries, the Nambi and the Skeleton, and then the fully armored version of those will be the two versions of the Knights. And the code's not really going to change, we're just going to make them a little stronger and beef up their resistances, because really, the Skeleton and the Nambi are just reanimated people, and that's what a Knight would be anyway, so most of the code is going to be pretty much universal for all of this. Except there will be a better way to choose what attack he makes based off of the attacks available. And single-handedly, the most important object. I don't know why it's called this, but when you start looking up loot objects, you'll inevitably come across the money spider. I don't know why. I don't know why that's the term for it. But I started making my own, and it's a rooster. We have a loot chicken. So in addition to basic enemy drops and treasure chests and specific like storyline quest items, things that would be physically manifested in the world, all regular items like basic weapons, armor sets, clothing, things that you will come across in the regular world have been transmuted into a small chicken statue. This goes back in the lore quite a ways. In the original foundations of this particular civilization, the most plentiful item that was around, and really the reason that they chose what would eventually become Bridewell as its area to settle, was there was a lot of wild chickens that would facilitate most of what they needed for, basic crafts and a lot of clothing items, and most importantly, a plentiful food source. So that's why this area was settled to begin with, and as a symbol of prosperity, the rooster has become emblazoned on the armor and the shields of the local military, and all storable items in the realm get transmuted into a small stone statue of a rooster. That way they're easy to stack, easy to transport, and they all have a uniform weight. You break the chicken, the item comes back, you move on with your day. So, this is a very old practice from the beginning of the foundations of Bridewell, and in Trevor's time it's not really used as much, but he's going to come across a couple of dozen of the old loot chickens, and that's where he's going to get most of his gear. That's an old D&D game. So, for the record, and just so everybody understands what I mean when I say lore, this world, the origins of it was a planet called Terra, which is just what people referred to when they were talking about the ground. They just called it kind of how we call ours Earth. This game takes place on a continent called Siren, and specifically within a city named Bridewell. These are locations that I've used in pretty much every high fantasy setting I've ever written. I've used this for the location for fairy tales, book reports, stories for English classes, D&D campaigns, and now I'm bringing this sort of mainstream and introducing you all to my fantasy world in the first game in what will hopefully be a trilogy of War's End. The people of Bridewell have been locked in war for a century with a demonic force from another plane of existence. If you really want to dig into how and why that happened, it's all written. It was all part of a previous campaign, and if I ever get a chance to get this all fully funded and I make my personal dream game, I will be making the story of the mage that started all of this. But this game is not about that. This one is about how that war ends. And as all wars end, the story starts with a guy. In this case, his name's Trevor. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into this. So, now when we go forward, the next few steps, since the loot chicken is now functional, there's one actually in the game. We'll do a state of play next time. When you attack the chicken, and you just put on a helmet. But that doesn't really work. You can't really just run around and hit chickens and have stuff on you. So we're working on next a system to save and serialize game data, and an inventory system. Right now, my next task personally is to finish drawing the window itself that will hold the inventory layout, and from there we'll figure out a system so that way when you get a loot chicken or acquire any item in the world, be it chest or enemy drop, what have you, it should go into your inventory, which should then be accessible through the menu. So we have to build a menu, we have to build a saving system, and then we have to figure out how to address the components of physically and visually allowing you, the player, to access and equip your inventory. And since the target for this game is, I believe, we're shooting for consoles, I'm also going to have to figure out how to do this with a PlayStation controller. Right now, the playable version is on my mobile device and here on the laptop. So we'll do a full state of play, show you how everything works currently, show you the loot chicken, the first instance of a Nambi enemy, stamina bars, health bars, healing systems, all that, and all the base mechanics. I will say this, I'm taking a lot out of, I don't want the Souls-like tag, I really don't. Favorite game series of all time. I've logged enough hours to have mastered any task in any other sense of the word, but focus it all on Elden Ring. So, like, I've gotten really good at these, and I know how these games work, so I'm going to take some things from them, because, you know, why wouldn't you stand on the shoulders of giants? But this will not be a Souls-like, except for a couple very simple things. Like, I'm pretty sure enemies are going to respawn. I'm not doing anything with your exact location. Everything will be checkpoint based, kind of like the old bonfire system. Stamina is going to be your guidance. Stamina management is going to be an actual difficulty. Let me know in the comments what you think, because I'm not entirely sure on the leveling system. I want to toy around with the idea of not really having a level cap, but I know that might be a little weird once you get to like upper levels of New Game Plus, New Game Plus Plus. If you can get your resistances high enough that you no longer take damage, how bored are you gonna be, really? So I don't know. We'll sort that out. Let me know what you guys think. And like I said, this is an evolving project, and I really want as much input as possible. Anything you guys have as far as questions, comments, anything you want to know, anything you think we should add, let me know as this goes on. I can't really think of anything else, so I think we're just going to call it right